It's looking like a day of potential jeopardy for the UK leader. Boris Johnson is facing parliamentary grilling over charges of sleaze within his party. MPs on the Parliament's cross-party select committees are quizzing the Prime Minister. Let's cut straight across now to the UK Parliament.
Report back to you and to your committee.
But in this moment, Prime Minister, what's your thoughts on that? Your instinctive thoughts?
I certainly think that the ACOBA process is invaluable, and it should be incumbent upon anybody leaving public office to follow those rules.
Pretty toothless organisation, though.
No, the people have to abide by the ACOBA rules, and the Cabinet Office, Simon Case and others are leading work with ACOBA and Eric Pickles to see what improvements can be made, and we'll be reporting back.
But with respect, they don't have to follow the recommendations. They can do what they like. They're issued a very polite letter, but they can simply disregard that, and there's quite a few examples of that has happened. So it's a pretty toothless organisation. Do you think, therefore, as part of this work that we're taking forward, it can be strengthened?
We do think that there is scope for improving it. What I'm saying to you is, as a result, we haven't yet formed a hard and fast view about how to do that.
Thank you, Sir Bernard.
When do you think you will form a view on that matter?
We'll be updating later this year.
Later this year.
Not that there's much time left this year. Later this year.
Chris Bryant.
Thanks very much, Chairman, and good afternoon, Prime Minister. Can I just check in one of the answers there? You just said that the Business Secretary had written to the Parliamentary Commissioner for Standards apologising. Excellent. As I understand it, you were saying there that Lord Geit had asked him to do so.
That's not quite what I said. I said that the process by which the letter was generated was one that involved collaboration between me and Lord Geit, and my reliance upon him for his advice.
So you told the Business Secretary to apologise? And
that's a very important thing.
So you told the Business Secretary to apologise?
That's a matter between me and the Business Secretary, but if you mean did Lord Geit ask the Business Secretary to apologise, the answer to that is no.
But you're not telling us then whether you did or didn't, because some of us might gently suggest to you that we were surprised that the Business Secretary would freelance when he went on the air. One presumed that you'd asked him to go on the air to call for the Parliamentary Commissioner for Standards to resign.
No, well, that's obviously not right. No, I didn't do that. And
did you know in advance that he was going to do that?
No, and just to clear the matter up, since I don't want to leave any ambiguity for the committee, I certainly thought it was appropriate for the Business Secretary to write in the way that he did, and supported him in that.
Why is the list of ministerial interests only published twice a year? Because most of every year it's not even an accurate list of ministers, let alone of their interests.
Well, the list of ministerial interests is there to be consulted. I think insofar as members also serve as MPs, which of course the ministers also serve as MPs, which of course they do. Their parliamentary interests are there to be consulted and to be updated at very regular very regular intervals.
Well, the Commons publishes a rolling register which includes everything every fortnight, and you can see the whole of the House of Commons on a single document. But the government tucks all the details for ministers away in 232 separate documents online. That isn't really transparency, is it?
Well, I disagree. The MPs who are ministers, and that's majority of ministers, have to register all their interests in the parliamentary register.
Oh no, but they don't.
There's the additional register of ministerial interests.
Okay, so let me give you an example. If two MPs were sitting next to each other in a box, being wined and dined, guests of some business or industry body, one was a backbench MP and the other was a government minister. The backbench MP would have to register this with the House of Commons within 28 days, but the minister, and would have to give details of the amount that it cost, but the minister wouldn't have to register the amount of money that it cost at all, ever, and the registration would only appear 6 months later. That's just unfair, isn't it? Shouldn't there be one rule for everybody?
Well, I think that what you get, I'm sure that most MPs would register their interest in if they've been taken out to dinner, they would register their interest in the register.
So you think ministers should?
I think that the system that we have is the one that I inherited, and it seems to work pretty well. But if you have recommendations, Mr. Bryant, to improve it, then I'm sure that the House will be interested to see them.
Excellent, thank you. Can I just ask you, because I don't quite understand, do you think that Owen Paterson was guilty or not?
I think it was a very sad case, but I think there's no question that he had fallen foul of the rules on paid advocacy as far as I could see from the report. I think the question that people wanted to establish was whether or not, given the particularly tragic circumstances, he'd had a fair right to appeal.
He had an appeal. His appeal was heard endlessly, both by the committee.
Yes, Mr. Bryant, I wish to restate that informing the impression that the former member for North Shropshire had not had a fair process, I may well have been mistaken. But that was certainly the impression that many people seem to have.
Theresa May said yesterday that your actions over this case were misplaced, ill-judged, and just plain wrong. Well,
I think I've said several times now that I do think it was a mistake to conflate, as we did, those two things. A particularly difficult case. It's not often in our House of Commons when a colleague suffers a family bereavement in the course of an investigation. There was quite a lot of feeling about it, and for that reason, in a spirit of compassion, I thought it might be useful to see whether there was any cross-party support.
But you didn't approach cross-party at all, did you? You told John Whittingdale that there was a cross-party agreement to set up this committee, but that wasn't the case, was it?
So it would seem.
Well, why did you tell him that?
Well, I can't comment on that conversation since I didn't have it. But what I can say is that I believed that there would be cross-party support for the idea.
How did you believe this? Just out of your head, you came up with it.
It was put to me that people.
By whom?
By colleagues, that people would feel, and indeed I was fortified in this by the reflection that many people would have felt that this was a particularly difficult and sad case, and many people across the House would have felt a degree of sympathy.
WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.